Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. I'm happy to be with you tonight. I'm glad that I'm able to. I had that birth this morning and it went very well and it went very quickly. So I am home to be with you here now. I'm going to wait just a few minutes to let people join and also to get us hooked up on Instagram as well. As you're hopping on, say hello. Let me know how you're doing tonight. Let me know how you felt about yesterday's content and tying it all in together with day one and day two. And if you have any questions. All right. We're going to hook up to Instagram, the double stream, and then we're going to get right into it. Good evening, Instagram. How is everybody doing tonight? Tonight we're kicking off day 4 of our 5-day live, Confident in Birth and Beyond. And today we are talking mindset. Mindset matters. As always, I'm double streaming with Facebook, so my attention will be down, but please stay with me and leave your comments and questions, and I will get back to you. All right, hopping right into day 4, Mindset Matters. Having our workbook out and ready. And we're going to hop right into this because I could go off on a whole bunch of tangents. I'm actually extracting one of those tangents, and we're going to actually continue mindset tomorrow, a whole different kind of mindset. But that still doesn't mean there's not a whole bunch of other tangents I could go off on. So we're going to get right into the worksheet, filling out the blanks, and then I've even got additional notes to go beyond that as well. Hi, Nicole. How are you? All right. So as I've been kind of saying all along, day 1 we did options for birth planning, the what, right? And then day 2 we did childbirth education, which is sort of, it's the beginning, it's skimming the surface of the how. We talked a little bit about the why, which we go much deeper into in my signature program, Birth Your Way. But all along I've been saying, having a solution-based mindset versus an outcome-focused mindset, creating that feeling, whatever you want to feel in labor. What is that feeling? How will you create that feeling? How will you nourish and maintain that feeling, even if and or when things change? And so I've been saying all along, success is a feeling, not an outcome. However, I will say that the outcome is directly related to your motivation and your determination, which is your why. We briefly touched on the why, and the stronger your why is, the closer you are, to achieving the outcomes. Even though we're not outcome based, we're solution focused. The outcome is directly related to your motivation, your determination. How clearly can you see what it is that you want to achieve? I believe personally that the clearer you can see your dream, your vision, your desires, that means it's already on its way to you. I heard a beautiful quote once, and I speak to it a lot when I teach yoga, is that, God would not have put a dream in our heart if it wasn't already on its way to us, if it wasn't meant for us. We would not have that dream or that desire in our heart. Nicole says, great, glad you're here tonight. I am too. I am too. I was really thinking it was going to be an all-nighter. It was an all-nighter for them. They checked in at midnight, and I got there in the morning, and I was there for 25 minutes, and it was so quick. So mindset matters. And so when we're talking about this feeling that we want and our desires for birth, There's something that is called the unconscious bias, and I'm going to give you a really funny example of what an unconscious bias is. And it's like when you already know in your heart that you're going to do something, no matter what the statistics say, no matter what your friends and family are recommending, no matter what the expert is suggesting. It's like you already know what you're going to do in your heart, but your mind is like just asking you to do your due diligence and research it and whatever. And so now we go and we start to research whatever it is that we want. And we could scroll through 10 pages of evidence that points against what we want or what our desires are. But, deep into page 10 of the Google search, there's like one article with one sentence that confirms your heart's desires. And you're like, yep, I knew it. Like that's what I'm going to do. And so that's the unconscious bias. And the funny example that somebody told me once was, if you are wanting to go on a diet of pizza and ice cream, it's not a great idea. It's not a diet. There's no research to prove that it's healthy. All your friends and family are saying you're crazy. But you found some blog from some person that said they lost 20 pounds on the pizza and ice cream diet. And so you're like, yeah, confirmed. That's what I'm going to do. So unconsciously, you're biased towards what your heart's desires are, and you're going to find that research that backs you up. So in our worksheet, we're going to start to go right through this. I want you to get excited. Let's build an unshakable confidence and an unbreakable trust. And with who? Your provider and your facility are important, for sure. Your policy or your provider and your facility have policies and procedures that they have to follow. However, let's rewind back to day one. I had somebody type my mental notes in the comments for me. Policy is not law. Providers and facilities have their policies. They are not law, but just knowing that when these things are in place, you have to fight a little bit harder. And who wants to be fighting for anything during their labor and their birth? Hi, Rachel. So your provider and your facility are important. More importantly, having 150% confidence and trust in the process. And then in number one, yourself. That is more important. Trust in the process, trust in yourself. So what is stopping you from having your desires met? So I have my clients fill out a paper that has different views of birth. And in one column, it's how society portrays birth. And then in another column, it is your deepest, most uninhibited, most uninfluenced desires ever in a perfect world. And then in another column, it's your expectations. And so most frequently, your desires and your expectations do not align. And so what is keeping you from having your desires met? Fear. Hi, Sujata. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. So fear. Fear enhances our perception of pain. And we've talked about this, or I've talked about this in other lives, where let's say we had an experience that, maybe it was intense, it was painful, it was not enjoyable. And then you have the same experience and you add more stressors into the mix. Your perception of pain is going to increase. Fear enhances our perception of pain. So let's talk about the brain for a minute. The conscious brain is that of logic and reason. So our everyday thinking brain, we talked about this yesterday, is beta wave brain. It's our thinking brain, it's our fight or flight brain, and this is it tries to keep us safe from perceived threat, right? And so most of the time, keeping us safe means keeping us small, keeping us shrinking down, keeping us inside our comfort zone. And so it shrinks us down. It keeps us safe from this perceived threat. It keeps us playing small because it is comfortable with a familiar routine. And I'm going to get into this a little bit later about the actual like science, because I love to nerd out on science and anatomy and physiology and why the brain sort of does what it does. Hi, Allie. How are you? And so we're going to get into that in a little bit later. But it keeps us playing small because it's comfortable. Because since we were kids, it's kept us safe. If we're alive today, if we're sitting here today having this conversation, our brain has done its job of keeping us safe. So it's going to keep doing these repeated patterns that keep us safe inside of our comfort zone. So our conscious brain takes cues from the unconscious brain. Our unconscious brain is like a tape player on repeat over and over again. And our subconscious brain gets fed by like subliminal messages, stuff that we don't even realize that we're picking up on, the sign that we pass every day, or, the things that we hear our coworkers, our friends, and our family talking about every day. Like, this is what our subconscious gets programmed with, and our conscious brain takes cues from the subconscious brain. And so again, it's like that tape player on repeat, going over and over and over again. And so from the ages 0 to 7, and it's even thought that before birth, in the 3rd trimester in the womb, is when our subconscious brain, is starting to develop, and it's full of joy and it's full of innocence, and there's been no programming yet. So from 0 to 7, those years are super, super important as to what we're feeding our brain. Around age 6 or 7, fear rears its ugly head through this subconscious programming or subliminal messages. And so, like, what are these things? It's things like, from 0 to 7, it's watching patterns that our parents have. It's listening to conversations that our parents have, or our receiving from 0 to 7. Fear starts to rear its age, or rear its head around that age, because at some point, we get in trouble or something scares us. And so we are only as old as our first trauma, right? So, from the 3rd trimester in the womb till about age 6 or 7, that subconscious brain is like a clean slate. There's no tape playing in it yet. And then something happens. And then our thinking brain has to kick in, and it has to keep us safe. And so the unconscious brain, and we're on page 2 now, we're going right through this stuff. The unconscious brain doesn't reason and can't differentiate between what's real and what's not. And so that's actually a really good thing, though, because this means that we can change the tape. And so whatever is feeding or programming that subconscious brain, the subconscious brain doesn't say, that's not true, I'm not going to take that in, or that's a lie, or maybe that's true for you but it's not true for me. Our subconscious brain doesn't do that. It doesn't have logic, it doesn't have reason. It just takes these messages in, and it doesn't know the difference between what's real or not. And so that's a good thing. What we can do is change the tape that's playing. Anything that we tell it, it'll believe. And so from our subconscious brain believing whatever we tell it, it travels to our conscious brain, and then that becomes our thoughts. Thoughts become actions, actions define our values and who we are. And again, that's getting into that why component. We talked about the what, we talked about the how, and it's that why component that's the catalyst, that's the driver to achieving our desires and our goals. Hi, Lisa. I see you on Instagram. Thanks for joining. All right. And so, from our subconscious brain believing whatever we tell it, it travels to our conscious. It becomes thoughts. Thoughts become actions. Actions define our values. Hi, Hunter. All right. So, I'm going to pause here for a moment. I know this is like a lot of stuff, and I'm trying not to be too nerdy on the science part of it. Let me know some of your experiences with mindset. Has there been any experience in your life where, we talked about how fear enhances the perception of pain. Like, do you have an example of that where maybe you experienced something in a calm, peaceful environment, and then maybe the same thing happened, years later or whatever, or a similar thing happened years later, but there were all these added stressors involved, and so it enhanced your perception of, the pain. So that's what fear does, and I see this a lot in labor and birth. And so we actually talk about how one of the major, I'm going to call it a diagnosis, but I feel like there's a better term, for a lot of interventions in labor is this failure to progress diagnosis. Labor has stopped, it has slowed down, you're not going fast enough. And so failure to progress, FTP, is really what, if you can envision a cycle, it's a cycle of fear, tension, and pain. FTP, fear, tension, and pain. And so when we have fear, we create tension. When we tense up, we create pain, and when we have pain, there's fear, there's tension, there's pain, there's fear. So you get in this spiral, and I see it all the time where we're coping beautifully, we're in our own little zone, in our own little rhythm, in our own little ritual of coping, and then staff comes in, the provider, the nurse, whoever comes in, maybe they're flipping lights on and talking loud and adjusting monitors and messing with your IV. And then all of a sudden, the birthing person seems to kind of spiral out of control. They get out of their rhythm, they get out of their zone, and then all of a sudden they're panicking. And so pause, practice the pause. As the doula or the partner, I could encourage the partner to ask the people to leave the room or shut off the light or quiet their talking, and then we can settle back down. And so I see this a lot. So if you have an example of that you'd love to share, I'd love to hear it. This stuff just fascinates me, and I just made a post today too. I just started listening to a book on audiobooks, and it's I forget the name of it already. It's like practice speak. I'll post it in the comments. Yeah, I can't think of it right now, but super, super good, like next level, mind-blowing mindset stuff. And so here we go. Going back to our worksheet, the power of the I am affirmation is that it is set, written, spoken in the present tense, as if it's already happening. And so affirmations is just one tool we can use to help to change the tape of that subconscious, retrain the brain, and instead, too, I'm going to give you a reframe here. Instead of stepping outside your comfort zone, don't think of new things or challenging things as stepping outside your comfort zone, because that's uncomfortable and that's scary and we don't want to leave that bubble. Think of it as expanding your comfort zone. So every time we try something new, even if it's a little scary, we can reframe that as well. Scary is exciting, and we're expanding our comfort zone. And so the power of the I am affirmation, again, that's another tool to change the tape, flip the script, is that it is set, written, spoken in the present tense as if it's already happening. And the more senses that we can engage with these tools and strategies that we have, the quicker the results. And so what does that mean? Like the more senses we engage. And so when you are doing these things to help rewire the brain, don't just think it, speak it, write it, hear it, act it out as if it's truth, and it will be truth. And so the reason, I'm going to get a little science nerdy here, the reason this is happening is because everything is energy, right? And so some people would say this is like hippy dippy or woo woo stuff, and really it's physics. It's science. It makes sense. And so in this new audiobook that I'm listening to, that I wish I could remember the name of, they talk about how our outside world, even the solid matter stuff, it's like point. I need to write this stuff down. It's like 0.999999999% like space and energy, and then it's point like 0.0000001% solid matter. So let's just say there's a really big amount of energy and a very small amount of solid matter, but we perceive the very small amount. And so like we're living our life focusing on like this really tiny small thing, because our senses, it's tactile. We can see it, we can touch it. It takes up space, it takes up time, whatever it is, but it's really just a very small fraction of what is happening, of what we're seeing. And then the bigger piece of it that we're missing, that we're not focusing on, is that it's really mostly empty space and energy. And so everything is energy. We have a solid body, which is made up of, cells, which are made up of atoms, which is made up of subatomic particles, which is made up of energy. And so it's like magnets, right? And so like attracts like. Our vibration, so think of it as like a satellite dish, right? Like we're basically a satellite dish broadcasting our energy. And so certain thoughts, certain feelings, certain actions, it all vibrates. Some vibrate higher, and we broadcast that higher vibe, and then we attract it back. Some vibrate lower, right? Fear, doubt, scarcity, lack of, that vibrates lower. We broadcast the lower energy, and that's what we attract back. And so the power of the I am, again, I'm just repeating, is that it's set, written, spoken in the present tense. Engage all of your senses. Write it, read it, speak it, hear it, act it out as if it's happening, and it will be. When we learn to master mindset, we can learn to master mindset through embodiment. That's the next part. Be what you want to be in the future. Envision your future self. What are you doing? What are you wearing? Who's with you? What's around you? How are you acting? What energy, what thoughts and feelings and actions are you broadcasting as that future self? As whatever it is that you're desiring, start to embody it now so that we start to broadcast that person now and then attract back to us what it is we want and what we desire. Next part, this is called the law of attraction. What we put out, we get back. And so super interesting stuff in this audiobook that I'm reading. The way that he framed it out, like a satellite dish broadcasting energy, attracting, the same energy frequencies that we're putting out there. It's like stuff I already knew about, but like putting it in a new framework and a whole new level. Let's see. Let me catch up with what we've got going on here. All right. So I'm going to pause here for a moment. I have extra notes. That's the end of our filling in the blank. Let me get, all right. So that's the end of our workbook, but I do have more. And I do want to announce our winner, which I spun for before I came on. And I'll also post it in the group. And our winner is Nicole Graham. Winner is Nicole. Yep. All right. So Nicole, you are the winner for today's drawing. message me to let me know what you want. Pick from the prize list. We've got Amazon gift card. We've got a birth ball. We've got birth affirmation deck of cards and a book. You could choose a book from our book list. And I just added a new book to the book list as well. It's called Pushed. And I think a client told me about it, and I read, like the little about the book, and it sounds really good. All right. So we kind of are going over a lot in a little amount of time. Like I said, I could go off on mindset tangents for a long time. And like I said, I extracted a portion of mindset, and we're actually going to talk about a different kind of mindset tomorrow. Nicole says, oh my gosh, how awesome. Congratulations. Thank you for showing up, being here every night, commenting, watching the lives, inviting your friends. So yes, if you are new to the 5-day live, inviting your friends gets you entries into the contest for the drawing, for the prizes, 3 entries for inviting, 2 entries for catching the live, 1 entry for commenting, and 1 entry for watching the replay. And so thank you so much for being here, Nicole. So yeah, we've talked about a lot of deep stuff. Success is a feeling, not an outcome. I'm just going to kind of go over this. However, the outcome is directly related to your motivation, your determination, your why. This is what we get deep into in my signature program, Birth Your Way. I want you to get excited. If we were raised, again, let's talk about that tape that plays in our head. That tape surrounding birth is low energy, right? It's doubt, it's fear, it's all low vibe energy stuff, because this is what we're told from a very young age. This is what we see in the media from a very young age. And so I want you to get excited about it. Let's build that unshakable confidence, that unbreakable trust. Have trust in the process. Have trust in yourself. Learning to catch those thoughts. And so we talked about, I want to go back now and get into some of these extra notes about trauma, right? And so I had mentioned a little bit ago that we are only as old as our first trauma. And so that's when the tape and the program starts, because from 3rd trimester, to 6 or 7, our subconscious and our conscious brain are filled with innocence and joy and happiness, and then something happens, and then that tape gets planted in there, gets rooted in there, and then our brain says, okay, something happened, I have to keep you safe from here on out. And like I said, if we're here right now talking to each other and alive, our brain has done its job. It's kept us alive. And so it's going to keep playing that tape, because all the brain knows is, hey, I'm doing a great job. I've kept her alive. Let's just keep doing those same things. Let's stay inside that bubble. We need to think of it as expanding, but we are only as old as our first trauma, because even years and years and years later, when something happens, when a similar trauma or similar situation or similar feeling comes up, we are responding as that child who had its first trauma. We're not responding from a place of, adulthood with knowledge and wisdom and logic and reason. We are responding as the child who was hurt for the first time. And so I have some extra notes here that aren't on your workbook, so follow along with me. Why is trauma stored the way it is? And I mentioned this in a live earlier. I don't know if it was part of the 5-day live or just a separate live that I did. The brain is only meant to process emotions for 90 seconds. So why is it that we store trauma for all these years? Why? And so if the brain were to just, have an emotion or have an event, and it's only supposed to process for 90 seconds because it's just this one single thing, the way that we're able to hold on to it longer is to create a story around it. The brain likes stories. And so we create a story around it. And so this story now, it disrupts the way that our central nervous system processes things. So our body likes, let's see here. Nicole, I am listening to an awesome audio book that was recommended by a doula. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. I will definitely check that out. And I will also link in the book that I'm reading as soon as I remember the name of it. And so why we store trauma is because we attach a story to it. And then it disrupts the way that the central nervous system processes. And so imagine like a superhighway, right? And it's cars and traffic going in all these different directions, but it flows because this is the way that it's gone all the time, and it flows. And then something happens. And so when something happens, the body reverts to a simpler way of processing things. Instead of the way that it always has, it reverts back. We're going back to the child who had its first trauma, and it reverts back to something that it understands in the way of visuals or sensations. And so we can think of this, maybe we've heard the term dissociation, right? When we have a trauma, we may dissociate from it. When something similar happens, we move away, we back away from it. We may have visuals or hallucinations, or we may have body sensations, right? An example for me for this is a very horrible winter accident that I got into. My car, the hood of my car got stuck under a gas tank truck and the truck kept driving. This was in the winter. I slid on ice. My car hooked under the tank of a gas tank truck. And so my body has stored that trauma. And so I remember it in sensations, right? I don't get visuals too much, but like every time I'm driving near a truck, I can feel like my pelvis tense up, my breathing shallows, I'm clenching, and I don't even know that I'm doing it. Like I dissociate from whatever it is that I'm currently doing, and I just I revert back to a simpler processing system. And so this is why we store trauma. We attach a story to it, and then our body reverts back to a simpler way to process it. And then how the trauma is stored is super interesting to me, and I am by no means a computer whiz, but I think the way that it was broken down, as far as like the way I'm going to explain it, we are comparing it to a computer, and it makes a whole bunch of sense. And so how trauma is stored in the body is, so we have a story now. We had a trauma, we've created a story, and then we've created coping mechanisms around them. What happens with this trauma is it starts to fragment. Okay, so it's too big for our body to hold on to, and it's too big for our brain to process as one. So it starts to fragment it into little pieces, and it dismantles the trauma, and it's stored in fragments. And so think about it this way. When you are doing a whole bunch of things on your computer, and you have like 20 different tabs open on your web browser, plus you have like 5 other windows open, like Microsoft Word and your iTunes and your music, and you have all these different windows up, and then within the windows, within your web browser, you have all these tabs, and your computer starts to slow down and get glitchy, right? Because it's just doing too many things. And so this trauma that was too big for it to process, it dismantles it, it fragments it up, it gets stored, and we start to get glitchy. And so then this trauma can manifest anywhere at any time. So that child who first had trauma, it dismantles and it fragments. And then later on as an adult, maybe we have like unexplained knee pain or unexplained stomach problems. And it shows up anytime, anywhere. And this is huge in birth because you might be all prepared with the what and the how and the strategy and the education. And you're reading all the things and watching all the videos and taking all the classes. But if you don't have a hold on your mindset and even going back to past traumas that may have nothing to do with birth, because birth is so intense, it can bring something up because trauma can manifest at any time, anywhere. And so we're reacting to similar situations. This intense, transformative thing might bring up something from the past that's completely unrelated and unexpected. And so, like I said, we're only as old as our first trauma. And so we have these tools to help to start to, to close the tabs. Close the tabs, put it all back together again, and learn to release it. And so it's been shown in studies that more so than medication, than pharmaceutical medication, yoga, meditation, counseling, affirmations, visualizations, vision boards, all these things are much more effective than pharmaceutical ways to treat. Hi, Amanda. And so because we're reacting from this place of this child who had its first trauma, we can't reason with it, right? We can't, let's say it's a 6-year-old reacting. We can't reason with a 6-year-old. If you've ever tried to reason with a 6-year-old, they don't get it. They don't understand. So instead of reasoning with our brain, who wants to keep us in a comfort zone and wants to keep us safe, we have to negotiate with it. Right? We can negotiate with a 6-year-old, right? Yes, you can, if you do this, then you can do that. We're negotiating. And so, and I've done this, and I speak it out loud, right? The more senses that you engage, speaking it, seeing it, writing it, hearing it, acting as if, embodying it. So I said this out loud. I say this out loud to myself all the time. Me currently speaking to my 6-year-old in my head, and I'm just saying, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want to do that today. Thank you for looking out for me. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. However, let's try my idea first, my new idea first. And if that doesn't work, then we'll go back to your idea and we'll try that. You have to negotiate with the two sections of your brain. And so try that. I've even read books. I've read books, and I actually have a friend who does this as well. Their recommendation is to name it, right? So you have these different places within us that we react from. We react from a place of fear. We react from a place of doubt. And so name these parts of your brain, right? Whatever you want to name it, a person, name it a thing, whatever, and have those conversations. My friend has all these different names for when she's afraid of something, or when she's happy about something, or and she reasons with this named thing. So in my example, I would just say, like, no, Karen, I don't want to do that. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. We're going to try my new idea first, and we're going to learn that it's exciting and that it's actually expanding our comfort zone, and that, we're really going to enjoy it. And let's try that first. All right. How is everybody doing? Whoops, let's see. There we go. This is a lot of stuff. It's deeper stuff. It's scientific stuff. But it's so very relevant. And, again, this is sort of the heart of Birth Your Way, right? We talked about all the different, well, not all, a lot of the different kind of childbirth education classes you can take. We talked about your birth planning and your birth options, and that's the what do you want? How are you going to achieve that? But then what's going to be the catalyst that helps you achieve that? And that's going to be the why. And I think that like I said, success is a feeling, it's not an outcome. However, your why, your deep down desires, your motivations, your determination is directly related to any outcome that you desire. And so, going back to the fact that we can only process, an emotion for 90 seconds, think about any decisions that you've ever made. Like for me, the best decisions I've ever made were the ones like the snap decisions that I've made. And it's because of this, because our brain makes decisions based on emotion. If we wait longer than 90 seconds to make a decision, then our brain kicks in and starts to reason and give us all these reasons of why we shouldn't do it, of why we should stay in our comfort zone. And so if you're feeling me on this, if this is something that is like resonating within you, if this is just something that you have a knowing about, that you want this catalyst, you want to figure out this why, you want to know what your deep down desires, motivations, determinations are, then, reach out to me, send me a message. If you're interested in Birth Your Way, this is the why. This is the catalyst. This is the next level support. You don't need to know how you're going to do it or what or why, or well, we're going to establish the why, right? But you don't need to take perfect action, right? Imperfect action is making that decision based on your emotion in that 90 seconds where your gut is saying, this, you're feeling this is for you. And then before our brain can talk us out of it, you do that. Those were the best decisions I've ever made. And there's like 2 or 3 of them I can specifically think of where I was either like done with something, I was done with a circumstance, and I decided I was moving on, or I was just so excited about something, I was like, nothing's going to stop me, nothing's going to get in my way. Best decisions I've ever made, right? And so the reason, again, that is because we decide based on emotion. Emotion is what comes from within, right? Thoughts are different. Thoughts are influenced by external. Feelings are internal. Feelings we should listen to, that gut brain. And so action, this is a big one. I would write this one down. It's not on our worksheet, but definitely write this one down. Action is the cure for anxiety. Action. Take action. Take massive action. Decide. Even if 5 days later you're like, now your brain is like, no. Decide right now. What is your catalyst? What strategies do you have? What is your what? What is your how? This is your why. This is that next level of support that's going to work on the mindset surrounding birth, surrounding life. This is why this program is Confident in Birth and Beyond, right? Because we're embodying that person after birth, right? When we have that confident, empowered, personal experience that we can get excited about, who do we become? Who do we become in birth, in labor? And then who do we become after? How does that affect your life? When you enter labor as one person, and you're entering it with a foundation of confidence and trust. You've already got that foundation of confidence and trust. You enter it. You transform. You level up even higher than you are. You transform. You come out of it this new person. How does that affect your relationship with your partner, with your friends, with your families? How does that affect you as a parent interacting with your children? And number one, how does that affect your relationship with yourself? When you've already had this foundation of confidence and trust in the process and in yourself, and then you up-leveled it in this massively intense situation, this experience, and then you come out of it like way, way higher. Now you're that satellite that broadcasts this energy out there, right? This new energy, this high, high, high level energy of the new you. Let's take a minute. Take a minute, and wherever you are, close your eyes. Well, first, before you close your eyes, if you have other tabs open, close them. Close your other tabs. Maybe silence your phone just for a minute. Put your feet on the ground and like wiggle them. Feel your toes. Feel the balls of your feet, the heels of your feet, rooted. Wiggle left and right on your sit bones. And feel how grounded you are. Feel how grounded you are. Sit nice and tall. A long, long spine, uninterrupted nervous system, running smoothly, running calmly, running clearly. And then close your eyes, just softly and gently. Let your eyelids fall shut. Take a very slow and full deep breath into the belly. Let the belly expand in all directions. Fill up all the way up to your heart. Breathe in, breathe deep. Open your mouth and slowly let the air escape. And then do that one more time. Feel your feet and your sit bones grounded and rooted. Rooted in trust, rooted in confidence. Sit tall and take the biggest sip of air in and fill up your belly. Let your belly expand in all directions. As that air fills all the way up to your chest, open your mouth and blow it away. Imagine your desires for birth. Uninhibited. Sky is the limit. No interference from anybody else. No outside opinions. Your deepest desires for birth. Imagine where you are, who you're with, what the lighting is like, what it smells like, what textures are around you. How are you feeling? What are you saying? What noises are you making? How are people speaking to you and interacting with you? And you're here, you're in this space. You have already built this experience on a foundation of confidence and of trust. You have the what, you have the how, you have the strategy, you have the plan. And now you have the catalyst, the why, your values, your principles, your deep down determination and motivation. You already have all of this. And now you're about to enter the most transformative, intense experience of your life. And what that's going to do is take all of this and up-level it. Up-level it 100 times, 1,000 times. Magnify it. Broadcast that new you, that new energy out to the world. And who do you emerge as? Confident, strong, empowered, positive, excited, vibrant. How does this affect your relationships with your partner, your friends, your family, your kids, and yourself. How do you move through life now as this person? With ease, with clarity, confidence, trust, joy, a lightness. This person that comes out of this experience, this beyond birth experience, write that all down tonight. Write that down tonight. Who is she? And start to embody her now. Not just with your thoughts, but also with your feelings. Your thoughts and your feelings combined broadcasts that energy out so that you can attract it back. Start to attract it. Action is the cure for anxiety. If you have a feeling of knowing, even though you don't know how or when or where or what the plan is or what the strategy is, if you have a knowing inside of you, a feeling that this is for you, this why, this mindset mastery, reach out, send me a message. Let's talk about birth your way. Let's talk about what your needs are. And let's get started. Let's get excited. And slowly let your eyes blink open. Wiggle your toes. Take a deep breath in and blow it away. Hi, Haley. Thank you for joining us tonight. All right. This is day 4. Mindset matters. How we can start to catch the old tape that's playing in our brain and keeping us inside of our comfort zone. Let's start to catch that. Let's start to flip it. Let's start to change the tape, change the conversation in our head with new messages, taking aligned action with the things that we want, making decisions not from the person that we are right now, but from the person that we want to be. Decide, take action, and tomorrow we're extracting a piece of mindset work. We're going to get really specific on it, and we're going to talk more mindset tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Saturday is going to be Q&A, and then Monday we have a bonus day, which I'm super excited to do. Bonus day on Monday plays off of yesterday's content, which was coping and communicating when plans change. And I'm going to give you some scenarios. You can either write them down or interact through comments and how you would deal with those scenarios. Super, super fun, interesting, frustrating perhaps when you hear what some of these scenarios are. Real life, how will you deal? So tonight I want you to think about that person who you are beyond birth, right? Confident in birth and beyond. Write that down. Write down everything about that woman, who she is, when you have confidence, trust, a personalized experience. You have complete autonomy and agency over your body. You get excited. And then this intense, transformative experience magnifies all of that. And you become this person in beyond birth. Embody this now. Decide and take unapologetic action to master your mindset. I would love to hear from you. Reach out. And over the weekend, I'll be giving more specific details on Birth Your Way, my signature program. Before then, please send me a message and we will go over the details for you. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night, and I will tune in with you tomorrow. Have a great night. Thank you.